Now, affordable housing is an issue for many of us, young and old, but as we age and many of us may be single, the quality of our housing experience also matters. Joining us this evening is someone who knows that all too well, and she does have a possible solution. Welcome, Dorothy Mazeau.
Thank you very much, Christine.
Now, you are a realtor, but you're much more than that. You have a development background as well as having been an architect consultant. So you really have a grasp of the whole housing metric. Let's look at what the housing scenario looks like for seniors now and what their options are realistically.
Sure. Well, currently the options are somewhat limited and there's a lot of demand for solutions. People that have been living in their own home for 40 years and they'd like to downsize, they'd like to go somewhere, but where are they going to go? The options are you can try to buy a smaller home, a bungalow, which with prices the way they are really come at a premium. There's not going to be that much difference between what you can sell your home for and what you can buy for. Another alternative is to go into one of the commercially operated retirement homes. They generally run between $3,000 and $5,000 a month, and it really is not in the budget of everybody. If you want to rent, it's a possibility. If you are in a position where you would need a rent geared to income situation, there's usually a waiting list of 5 to 7 years to get a place like that. I know people that have been waiting 4 years to find a place to move to.
Well, we've just heard, actually, Kate, that the rental prices, for example, in a place like Toronto, have gone up substantially in a month.
Yes, I'm not surprised because there is such a demand for housing. I know sometimes people will buy condominiums with the idea of renting them out. So that's sort of one avenue, but there's no really affordable way to do this. I mean, so some people just stay in their own home as long as they can and perhaps even longer than they should.
So what's the feedback you are getting from clients who are in that age bracket?
Well, the big one is, okay, I'd sell my home, but where do I go? Where am I going to go? And some of them do find a place. And I do recommend that they have an idea where they want to go before they sell. Don't put your house on the market unless at least have some idea where you're going to go. I'll take them out and show them. There are several adult lifestyle. That's another option too, is adult lifestyle communities where you can buy a bungalow, a condominium bungalow. And that certainly is a possibility for some, but it often means moving away from your own community. So as it happens, I think sometimes the members of a community will all tend to move to the same complex, so in a way that helps. They can certainly be in the same area. But the idea of community, I think, is the important part. People don't want to be torn away from their community.
But community is what this whole Golden Girls scenario is about. And you say when you were young, there were several Golden Girls type residences on the street where you lived.
Well, I have lived with other women or other people, whether it was single mothers or sometimes women and couples, different combinations of people for a good many years in different combinations. My son, for instance, he was the only boy with 2 older girls for a couple of years, and then he was the youngest boy of 4 boys in another situation, and the oldest boy with 3 boys. This was all until he was about, I guess, 6 is when we finally moved to a place where he was the only child in the family, so to speak.
But generationally, you have said that when you grew up on the street, there were aunts living together and friends living together. It's not a new concept.
No, it's not. I think that when I was young, it was more family members, like sisters sharing a home. There were 2 sisters living down one direction. I think one was a retired teacher, one was a retired secretary. The other direction, there were 3 Mrs. Hersey, I think their name was, and their brother, Mr. Hersey. And my ex-husband's aunts all lived together. There were 4. I don't know. I think some of them had been married. Some were widowed. Some had never married. And they were living in a family home quite happily.
So then if people find each other and decide to enter into a sort of communal Golden Girls living situation, how would it work? What are the legalities? I know the town of Caledon has brought in some rules and regulations. They're pretty open about it.
Well, certainly in Caledon, they do encourage people to at least have an apartment in their house, as long as there's adequate parking, and there's certain conditions under which it would need to be done. And there is a community there called the Whole Village. Greenhaven's the name of that community, and they actually had to work with the town quite a bit to get to the point where they would approve an 11 basically housekeeping unit in a one farmhouse. They finally decided that really the definition of a single family residence was that it have one kitchen. And what defined a kitchen? That it had a stove, a range in it. So they had several people that had their microwaves and their bar fridges and lived quite happily. I think they had one apartment because, again, they were entitled to have one additional accessory apartment. But that is a going concern now, and there are 11 units in that one farmhouse.
Well, this is caught on in the States, and you're hoping that it will catch on here.
Yes.
And what has the success rate been, or the growth rate in that market?
In the States?
Yeah.
I know that on the Golden Girls Network website, I think she currently has 500 homeowners that are registered on it and about 750 people looking for homes. And it's always a question of finding the right match. But she's found it was quite successful. This is Bonnie Moore is the name of the woman in the States who started this network. She lives in the Maryland area. And she got started because, probably 10 years ago now, she and her husband had just finished renovating their house in Maryland when the marriage broke up. And there she was. It must have been 2008, the year that there was quite a downturn in the market, right? Yeah. So there she was with a house that was overvalued for the market, and she had a big mortgage, and she had the house on her own. What was she going to do? So she finally got friends that were interested in moving in with her. Mm-hmm. And there were 4 of them, I guess, living together quite happily. And people kept saying, gee, what a great idea. We would like to do that. And that evolved into this website that she has going now.
Well, I've always loved the idea from the show. I thought it was a great concept.
Yes.
What is the reaction you get from people when you propose it to them?
Well, it kind of depends on the age range. I think we're really talking about people in their 50s, 60s, the younger seniors. I mean, older seniors, it's just such a foreign idea. They can't think about sharing their house with other people. But, I know a number of people that are currently living that way. I myself am sharing a home with another woman. And we did share also. Her mother was there for many years until she passed away about 5 years ago. And that's a case where, with the 2 of us in the home working, her mother would, when we first started sharing a home, she would have dinner waiting for us when we got home, and it was great. But even when we started sharing a home, she already had a debilitating condition that was beginning to progress, and we knew that it would. So the last few years of her life, we had a lot of support from CCAC and from community support. But still, she would not have been able to stay in the home if there hadn't been 2 of us kind of pinch hitting for each other and helping to care for her.
But that seems to be the whole premise of it. You have somebody there, somebody that knows how you are. And as long as it's not too close for comfort, as long as you can make this division.
Yeah.
But what about the legalities of, say, if you go in and buy a house together? Can that be sorted out?
It can be. I know there's a woman named Shelley Raymond who has Solterra Co-housing she's based in Bracebridge. And I know she has worked out, she's a realtor as well as a development consultant. And she has lawyers that have worked out contracts for this kind of thing. There's a group of women in Port Perry who were recently featured in the Toronto Star that also had a lawyer draw up terms what happens if someone passes away or if someone becomes ill or needs to leave the home. What's going to happen succession-wise, how you own the house together is an important thing. Definitely a lawyer should be involved in spelling everything out because it is really a business relationship as well as a social one.
And also, is it your principal residence? I mean, do you have to pay tax? Do your inheritors have to pay tax on it?
Well, if it's your principal residence, then the whole capital gains thing would apply. And I think at a certain point, even now, I think if someone passes away and if their house isn't sold within a certain period of time, I think then it becomes subject to capital gains. So
your service that you're creating is kind of like a roommate matching service, sort of like a dating site.
Yes, yeah, very much like that. I know that's how I found Bonnie's site, actually, was I was looking online to see what was out there. And I guess there are actually platforms for developing dating sites. But then I came across her site, which was exactly what I had in mind. So I thought, why reinvent the wheel? If we can make this work up here, that would be great.
Now you have a Facebook page that's Golden Girls Canada.
Yes.
And the email address for people to contact you is goldengirlscda@gmail.com.
Yes, that's right.
Well, yeah, we will have that if you want. So that's great. I mean, it's such a fabulous idea.
Yeah, I think it is too.
Great.
Thank you so much for joining us, Dorothy.
Well, you're most welcome.
This is what she said. Stay with us.